power of caring and the alchemy of healing. Going against our deepest conscience or inner self can make us physically ill, which for many means they then have to come to terms with moral, ethical and spiritual demands upon the way they live, so that they can heal psychically, no less than physically. We find that in the depths of our being, the quest for meaning at times overrules even the urge for survival. Death may be recognised as the bearer of health and renewal, as in the case of one of my patients, Kevin, who at the age of 31 created a vehicle to achieve all that he had dreamt of, and on completion died from cancer a few months later. Our problems and difficulties meet us not only because of wrong attitudes, but also in order to move us forward. The emergence of ever new field patterns of energy with their conflict and illness potential is an essential element of human existence, a precondition for maturation and growth. Life is not just a battle of survival, but a dramatic process of creation, a summons to embody and exhibit ever new forms of plays for their own sake, in motion towards a great refinement and differentiation. The messages we receive from contemporary dreams also point in that direction, particularly those that occur close to the death of the dreamer. A woman patient about to die of cancer dreamt during her last night of an evening where she was to shortly present herself at a fashion show, and that it was important she did not spoil the occasion with nervousness. Clothes refer to what we call persona, namely our adaptation to the here and now existence. Thus, she is told in her dream that she is expected to bring along and show, indeed exhibit, in the other world, the adaptation that she acquired in her lifetime, to be seen by others after her death. Implicitly, she is advised not to be nervous about the transition, as though the fact of death for her there is nothing to be worried about. For the person, the difficult and often painful, nearly too difficult assignment of becoming what one's potential is, includes alternating phases of physical or mental illness and healing, of experiencing guilt and redemption, egotism and sacrifice, and thereby integrating one's separatist or destructive drives into the formal order of life. By virtue of including this substance body of the earth in the human transformation process of labouring through pain and illness for the sake of growth and expanding awareness, humankind may indeed, as Alchemy saw it, offer spiritual transformation beyond the level of material substance. So, the great malady of the 21st century is loss of soul, and when the soul is neglected, it doesn't just go away. It appears symptomatically in obsessions, addictions, violence and loss of meaning. Our temptation is to isolate these symptoms or try to eradicate them one by one, but the root problem is that we've lost our wisdom about the soul, even our interest in it. Here is where the priests would have ministered to such a malady, but there is no power for the priest in everyday life, for they're only consulted to marry and bury us, and not to advise us when we have lost meaning, or when, as a nation, we find ourselves confronting a host of threatening evils. But within our history, we do have remarkable sources of insight from people who wrote explicitly about the nature and needs of the soul, and it is here we can look to restoring their wisdom. Modern psychology creates a clear tone of salvation in the sense that if you learn to be assertive, loving, angry and expressive, your troubles will all be over. What a bland existence we would have, and no grist for our development. How about a philosophy of soulful living, and techniques for dealing with everyday problems without striving for perfection or salvation? A spiritual life of some kind is absolutely necessary for psychological health. At the same time, excessive or ungrounded spirituality also can be dangerous, leading to all kinds of unwanted behaviour and confusion. What we are aiming for then is the interplay of spirituality and soul. All of my thinking leads to care of the soul, where the soul lies between understanding and unconsciousness, and its instrument is neither in the mind or the body, but imagination. To work fully, we need to bring imagination into our lives in areas which are devoid of such imagination. And we know where they are, because symptoms or behaviours and feelings will lead us right to isolating such areas. Fulfilling work, rewarding relationships, personal power and relief from symptoms are all promptings of the soul. The mind tends to go off on its own, so that it seems to have no relevance to the physical world. At the same time, the materialist life can be so absorbing that we get caught up in it and forget about spirituality. So, what we need is the soul in the middle, holding together mind and body, ideas and life, spirituality and the world. In my work, my aim has always been about renewing a connection and bringing the soul back into our lives. We can be curators of our souls, an idea that implies an inner priesthood, a personal religion. To undertake the restoration of soul means we have to make spirituality a more serious part of our everyday life. Such ideas are not about caring, fixing, changing, adjusting or making healthy. For it is not about the idea of perfection or even improvement, because psychology is a science. My care of the soul is for me a sacred art. Although I've used terms at times from Christianity, what I put forward is not specifically Christian, nor is it tied to any particular religious tradition. It does, however, imply a religious form of sensibility and recognition of our inner soul's needs as we progress through the potential richness of our life. A soulful personality is complicated, multifaceted, and shaped by both pain and pleasure, success and failure. Life lived soulfully is not without its moments of darkness and periods of foolishness. Dropping the salvational fantasy frees us up to the possibility of self-knowledge and self-acceptance, which are the very foundation of the soul.